Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here this evening. I'm going to be speaking about the science and politics surrounding the evaluation of Insite. So if this works here. Just to start off, give you a little bit of background, Insite had some very clear and simple objectives when it started. I think everybody's familiar with these, but the goal of the site was to reduce public disorder, reduce the risk for the transmission of infectious diseases, increase contact with health and social services amongst drug users, and reduce the risks associated with overdoses. But before the evaluation even got started or could produce any evidence, it was clear that it was going to take place in a highly politicized environment. This is a comment from John Walters, who's the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy Director, who called supervised injection sites nothing less than state-sponsored suicide. We have a different opinion from organizations that are in the business of preventing HIV and running public health programs. The WHO and the UNODC talk about safe injection sites in the following way. They say they are not a new intervention, but simply a packaging of existing recommendations. SIFs enable known WHO-recommended harm reduction interventions to be delivered and used in a safe environment with the aim to reach the most marginalized and most vulnerable of injection drug users. So the evaluation started in 2003 and has produced a large number of studies using a variety of methods looking at the different objectives of Insite, and has consistently produced findings showing that Insite is meeting its objectives. In addition to the individual studies that compose the evaluation, there's also a large number of commentaries, editorials, authored by experts in the field of drug policy and addiction. As you can see from the titles of these, they're discussing the prolific amount of evidence produced through the evaluation and asking the question, just how much is enough? In addition, other commentators talked about the absurd politicization of the evaluation by the Canadian federal government, and some people even cast that as Canada adopting a US-style harm maximization approach. The local media has also been involved in the discussion and has perhaps misrepresented how much emphasis has been placed on harm reduction in comparison to treatment. It's something that Dean spoke about earlier. So harm reduction hasn't been the sole focus. There has been an increase in access to drug treatment over this same point in time. And this graph shows some data that we have showing increased rates of entry into methadone maintenance programs. There was also comments from the local health authority, Vancouver Coastal Health, showing that they've increased their annual expenditures on treatment in the period since Insite opened in 2003. So to speak a little bit more about the politics surrounding this, there's been some very powerful and high-profile lobby groups that have wanted to enter into the conversation or into the debate. The Drug Prevention Network of Canada is a very important organization in this regard. This is a quote from an interview with a representative from the Drug Prevention Network, and this person said, "Insite organizers flirt with the surreal when boasting about directing addicts into treatment. You cannot get involved with treatment with an addict who just shot up," said Berner. "You can't talk to someone who just shot up, so the claim that they make that they're getting people into treatment is absurd." These kind of comments persist despite scientific findings like this published in the New England Journal of Medicine, which shows that people that use Insite more often are in fact more likely to enter into detoxification treatment. So they're more likely to access detox services, people that are accessing and visiting Insite on a regular basis. This was another part of one of the studies that was published, and it shows a dramatic increase in the levels of access to drug treatment in the time since Insite had opened. And what it indicates is essentially a 30% increase in the number of people entering into detox services. This is another piece of the puzzle in the same direction. Not only people entering into detox services and getting the residential treatment that Dean was speaking about, using Insite is also associated with actually stopping drugs. And it seems to me that this is an important piece of the puzzle because this is what the federal government is always on about. This is what they say that they want. So not only the Drug Prevention Network of Canada, but the Drug-Free America organization has also been involved in this conversation, has been an important lobby group. Their most important play in this whole story was this essay that appeared in this essay by Colin Mangham, who's the Director of Research for the Drug Prevention Network of Canada. And this appeared on their website, which poses as an online open access peer-reviewed journal. But in fact, it's really just a platform for the ideas and musings, writings of the Drug Prevention Network. So that last thing that I was showing you was some anti-Insite research. Thanks to the efforts of Pivot and a Freedom of Information request, it was discovered that the RCMP had actually supported some of these anti-Insite publications and reports. And this story recently appearing in Maclean's explained that the RCMP had commissioned these subsequent reports as a way to provide alternative analysis of existing CIF research, but they themselves recognized that these reports did not meet the conventional standards, academic standards of scholarship. So the evidence from the evaluation continues to flow in. This is a study that appeared in the Lancet, which is one of the top medical journals in the world, and it came out April of this year. And what this showed is that there was a 35% reduction in overdose deaths in the immediate vicinity of Insite, and this was based on actual coroner's records of actual deaths. So this is about as hard an outcome as you could get in a scientific study. So to give you an overview, it's been 8 years now since Insite opened and since the evaluation started. There's been 40 different peer-reviewed publications that have emerged from the evaluation, and obviously I can't go into depth to explain all of them, but I'll just give you a bit of an overview of the findings. So it documented a reduction in public disorder, and this was a number of different studies that documented this finding. There was also reductions in syringe sharing amongst Insite users. Insite has successfully managed thousands of overdoses. This is probably 3,000 or 4,000 overdoses, Liz could probably say more precisely. People that are using Insite have increased their use of detox programs and addiction treatment. Insite also allows women that are street-based injectors to avoid violence in the street-based drug scene. Users of Insite are more likely to use condoms, and Insite has averted many, many overdose deaths. And so those were the findings regarding the objectives. We've also looked at the other side of the equation to try and understand if there was adverse outcomes from the operation of Insite. There's been no adverse changes in community drug use patterns, no increases in the initiation of injection drug use, and no increases in drug-related crime. And that study was actually looking at BPD stats regarding break-ins and crime in the downtown East Side neighborhood. And you may not be aware of this, but now there have been 3 separate cost-effectiveness studies looking at Insite, and all 3 of those have determined that Insite is in fact cost-effective, more effective than spending money on other forms of intervention to address these issues. So all of these findings have led to numerous endorsements by a number of different organizations. This one is from the Health Officers Council of British Columbia, who resolved that they support inclusion of supervised injection services as an important component of comprehensive health authority prevention, treatment, and recovery substance-related services. So it's not only this group, there's many others that support Insite, Canadian Medical Association, the nursing associations, as Maxine was saying, and a broad range of public health, nursing, and medical organizations throughout Canada. So in summary, the evidence is in. There's been a lot of evidence, and it's demonstrating that Insite is meeting its objectives and not producing adverse outcomes. There's been widespread agreement amongst the international scientific community in relation to these findings that have been published in peer-reviewed journals, and the commentaries and editorials from leading experts in the field also support that perspective. As I mentioned, Insite is supported by the major medical, nursing, and public health bodies throughout Canada. However, the science related to Insite remains politicized, as we've seen from the court case and as we heard from the stories this evening. I think to sum up, I would say that the evidence has prevailed, and the strongest indication of that was in the Supreme Court of Canada last week when the federal lawyers were asked point blank by one of the judges if they had any evidence that Insite does not work, and they were forced to answer that no, they did not. Thank all the people who use drugs that have participated in the evaluation, everybody that works to reduce drug-related harm in the Vancouver area, and our community partners. And if you would like any more information about the evaluation or the scientific studies, it's available at our website at Urban Health Research Initiative, and that's the URL right there. Thank you very much.
So.